everyone. Welcome to the lab session of Module 4 on enumeration. So if you have a look at the labs, the tools that have been displayed and the content which is available are Windows based. However, here we are using Kali Linux to create, resolve attack scenarios. So the example that you would see today is basically of two tools that I have taken. A set of tools that help you in doing enumeration, a NetBIOS based enumeration on a Windows machine. That example has been taken from an online lab. So I would be giving you examples on how to gather information on users, the NetBIOS domain, the computer, and we would use Nmap and Kerberoot to exploit Kerberos features. And then in the end of the session, we'll spend few minutes in WP Scan with a website slackhq.com, which is a WordPress based website, and it has recently been released under HackerOne bug bounty platform. So I think we should begin with it. So as you can see on the slide that I covered this during the theory session also, that some of the scripts that we can make use of with Nmap and Metasploit. But here we would be using different set of tools for TCP 139 and 445. Okay, so let's begin with that. So I have these small notes and they have been prepared as per the steps that I performed to enumerate details out of this machine. So I'll just copy these commands and on the Linux terminal. Okay, wait, let me just first connect with the VPN. So normally, if you go to CTF Labs or any online platform, they require you to connect with their network using the VPN. And once you're part of the network, then you can actually boot a machine with the help of which you can learn basically performing these commands. So as far as our classes are concerned, you need to prepare some kind of a lab and or have an access to the offline lab with the stupid skills. Okay. Let me just do this. So what are we doing here on the screen? It's like we are using Nmap command and doing a syn scan, and all we would run all default type of scripts, and we'll do all default enumeration with scanning options that are available with Nmap. And I'm using tag small v for it to be a little verbose so that we know like what it is doing at the background. Okay. So in the log itself, you can see that port 139, 3389, and then 445, then 88. These are actually open. And this is a result from Nmap scan, and it will do a little bit of enumeration for us in the beginning itself. So it's scanning actually 13 services on this host. And this is a step that we have to perform after collecting details from footprinting and a little bit of OSINT methodologies that we adopted to do a reconnaissance. And then we figured out that, okay, this is a live host, okay, that we can attack. And this is the initial scan. So now it has initiated NSE, which is Nmap scripting engine. Okay, so it's done with it. We have scanned default 1,000 ports, which are important as per Nmap. And you can see that, you know, this detail that we have already covered, that it is running some simple DNS plus server on 53 protocol TCP. Then it's running IS version 10.0, and some of the potentially risky method that it understands from port 80 has already been reported. Then on port 88, you can see that it has Kerberos service which is running it. The service which is used to authenticate users on a Windows network or even Linux network. But here we can see that NetBIOS is there on 139 and Windows RPC is running on 135. Then we can see that LDAP is also there on 389. Microsoft Directory Service is running on 445. So from this information, as well as a little bit of information, down the screen, let me show it to you. That it has, NetBIOS domain name. It has already enumerated for us. Then the computer name. Then DNS domain name also it has listed, which is spookysec.local. This is the habit of most of the administrators. If they haven't, this is some kind of a weak domain name, I would say, that they used .local, and they try to keep something which is sounds similar to the company name, especially in the corporate environments. So in the stages of reconnaissance and footprinting, you will probably be able to correlate once you define your target. Then we can see that limited amount of trace route has also been done, and we know that SMB security mode is enabled, signing is enabled and required for it. So we would have to actually go one step further to enumerate users on this, and probably we'll have to crack the password to get some kind of a foothold in the machine and further enumerate. Okay, so the thing to note down here is that we need to have to if in case of Active Directories or NetBIOS, there is always if you remember the diagram that I showed you, that there is a X500 scheme that, or the format that it takes to, this kind of a directory tree structure that I showed you, right? So basically at the top there is a top level domain, then there is a regular domain, then there are organizational units like people and servers. And we could actually do a Google search also on Active Directory diagram example, and let me show you so what it actually has. So at the top level you have a domain, and then they are branched into various groups, and you can see on the right hand side there is a legend. So various organization units are there, and within an organization unit there is a workstation. Then within that some groups are also there, some printers and shares are enabled. So this would give you a little bit of an idea as to how Active Directory is laid out. But at the top level, you normally have a domain controller, which is like a server, which has the task of syncing all of the information between various machines that are there in the network or in this hierarchical structure. So how it helps is that even if you get access to this directory with the help of a normal user, then it works in such a way that you will be able to actually dump additional information about other users. And there are times when you would see permissions like this. I'll show it to you in a different tab. So if you see here, it would have permissions assigned to users, which have something like replicating directory changes all, and basically what this permission means is that it would copy and sync the details to other machines. So they are quite useful in terms of doing lateral movements. Say you have an access to one particular machine on a network, then with the help of that normal user, you would be able to dump password hashes, and you can use some tools to crack those hashes, or directly log in by doing a pass the hash attacks to get a root or access to the system. So that is what we would be covering. So let's move on to the next step. So you might have heard about a tool called enum for Linux. So it's basically some basic level of scans. If you want to do, you can perform those. So let me use this first. So I'll just keep this information available in this tab. Okay, let me move this tab to left. I'll just rename it to Nmap. So from enum for Linux, you can see that there are various options. It's a Perl-based script. So there are options of getting the user list, machine list, share list, password policy information, and all. Okay, and if you include a -a flag or an option, it would actually, if you have not used other options, it would provide basically information from all by doing all simple enumerations. Okay, let's try to use this. So what we would do is we'll say tag A. Okay, let me just clear the screen. So we'll use tag A, and I'll just give the IP. So what it would do is it would uh, you know try to discover whether all the known names with which the list that it has, whether those particular users exist on that target machine or not. So it will do some kind of NB stat, then it will check some global groups, some domain SIDs, and then it will try to figure out the users. So as you can see that we are actually with this small step, we are not getting complete information because we are getting some status access denied, for some of the queries that is trying to perform on these ports, say 139 or 445. Okay. So while doing RID cycling, that is relative ID cycling, it is trying to figure out whether some users with these RIDs exist or not, between the ranges of 500 to 550 and 1000. So you can see that within the initial scan itself, some of the values it has reported that these SITs have been found. Okay. So this looks like you can see that some of the users, see the administrator, KRBTGT, some are being reported, and but if you can see for some SIDs, it is not able to bring the results, and star unknown star is there. Then it has said that there are some domain admins, okay, some domain users, then domain guests. So there are computers. Okay, there is a tool called Bloodhound, I would say, which actually requires a little bit of configuration on Linux-based machines that you can use to get a graphical representation over the dump from an active directory. And obviously, if you have access to Windows-based tools that are there and which are shown on the PDFs, then it can graphically represent Those tools can give you more details graphically on users, groups, and printers, shares, and all those things, like the way I showed you a diagram in the beginning. Okay, I think I'll just interrupt this process. This was just to give you an initial overview as to you can use enum for Linux with more specific queries whenever you require. Okay, so let's move on to the next step of doing some real, enumeration. So I hope you are aware of a tool called Git. So on a GitHub website, there's you can find out with this URL that is highlighted on the screen, or where my cursor is, that there is a tool called Kerberos. So what we are going to do is, like as we saw in our initial scan that Kerberos service is running. So we are trying to exploit that to bring some usernames and some valid usernames from it. Okay. So let me just clone it first. So you need to use git clone, and you need to specify the URL of the repository, and this particular repository will be there. It will create a copy on the local machine, and then you can change into that directory. And I'm just listing those files. If you see that right now there will not be any binaries here, and for your target system, this operating system. So what you need to do is you need to use the command make all. I hope you are aware that this command is actually used to build binaries from sources. So right now these particular sources are in language, they have been written in source language Go. And in case it requires you to install additional dependencies, then you can do that. So once you read go through readme of this particular repository, you will be able to find these steps. And it's quite simple to actually install Go and then build binaries if some sources are present in Go. Okay. So the local machine that I have is a Linux AMD 64. So it has already built the binary for it, and it would probably fail on some operating system that is not possible to be built here. Okay. So because all the development libraries or dependencies are not there on my machine. Okay. Some error, but it does not matter. We can neglect that. Then we go to our dist folder, and we see that we have Kerberos Linux AMD64. Okay. So I'll just have a look at this. I'll just take this line of command here. So I'm going to replace the domain controller value with the IP that we had. The domain from the initial scan itself, we came to know that it is spookysec.local. And yeah, there needs to be one list of users, okay, against which it will try to figure out. So this particular list is there with me. Okay. So I'll just copy this. It was there somewhere in the backup. So so double slash is for go one directory back and then figure like find out this file. So just test this. Okay, I when I press on tab, it is being listed. And then tag T is for number of threads with which we want to figure out. User enum is the word for it to figure out the number of users. So I hope I'll repeat this again. With the dot forward slash, we execute a binary on Linux. Okay, user enum is a command, we sub command which we want to give it to figure out the users by trying all the users that are there in the user list.txt. Okay, the domain which it has to query is spookiesec.local, and the domain controller, the server which is responsible for distributing this information to other in the network, that is the primary server, that is the IP. So as you can see, as soon as I press enter, it has started reporting on some valid usernames. So something that would actually immediately give me a heads up is the one which has some kind of an admin role, SVC admin, and something which is a user which is like an administrator, and something which is related to backup. Usually in backups are normally put in shared locations, and they have a lot of information, and there is a user with that same name itself. Then there is a user with administrator. So it will in a later step, probably we will be able to escalate our privileges and become an admin. Okay. Okay, so there is another user, as you can see on the screen, the administrator with caps A. On the initial enum itself, we can see that hash has been dumped for SVC admin. Okay, so this is what kind of a hash it is. How you can figure that out, I can tell you that. So it's like if you have a look at the hashcat website, generally you should be able to figure out as to from the format itself that what kind of a hash is. So as you can see, a hash usually has a mode. So if you would, why this is useful, say you have access to hashes and you know the mode and you know what is its name, then you can use these values while cracking the passwords. Okay, if you're using a tool called Hashcat. Okay, currently that is a step further. I'll let you know. Okay. So it has some more users to list. Maybe because of network speed or something, it's taking a little bit of time. This should be maybe I should have increased the number of threads to probably 100. and it could have finished a little bit faster. Okay, then there is a utility called Impacket. If you might not be aware, then please have a look in your free time. That we are going to use that. It is by default available in Kali also, but in case you uh, g- are using some other operating system, then probably you would have to follow the steps to install it properly. Okay, what it does is like it uses programmatically some details and some protocols to figure out and establish connections with the targets to help you in enumerating more additional details. So you can see that it can use NTLM and Kerberos authentications to bring you the passwords, hashes, tickets, and keys. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. We have the IAM packet installed already on this particular machine, so we'll use it. It's one of the uh, utilities called get np users. Okay, and then what we will do is we will say no pass, no authentication is required for this particular user. That was actually listed as one of the valid usernames for this domain and on this IP. And bring in the details. So what it will do is like it will bring a hash for you. Okay, so I'll just initiate that command on the next tab. Again, taking the domain controller IP, and svc admin has already been listed as one of the valid users for this domain. So as you can see, I think it's the same hash that it already you know, no, it's a different one, right? 31D20 something. Yeah, it's a different one. Okay. So what we need to do is like we need to figure out as to how we could make use of this hash, uh, and we can crack it and understand like what kind of a password it is. Okay. So for this, we would be using a different tool. Let's see if it has finished that scan. Okay. It is still listing some more users. Let's wait for it. I also have one password list against which we can actually figure out. Okay. So I have a password list. Well, this is still going on, but it's okay. We can neglect this for the time being. Okay. The command which was this kerberoot command that we use to list out all valid usernames, because the one that we are using is svc admin. Okay. So what to before cracking the password, what we need to do is we need to take this hash and save it in a text file. So I'll just copy it. Okay. So I'll save it. I've pasted it, and I'll save it as hash.txt. Okay. And then, are you aware of a tool called John the Ripper? So you can actually pass the password files to it, and you can specify the option, and it would actually, if you specify, with the option word list, you can give the name of the file, and it would actually try to it will try to break the hash and try to map the hash with the password, with a clear text password. Okay. Okay, so we'll use this. Okay, this command. So what we'll do is, with the admin rights, we will mention the name John, and then we'll say our hash is stored in this text file, and with the word list option, we'll pass the path to the password list, the list of passwords that we already have. So let me just go into that directory. So we say sudo hash dash text, the word list. Where was it? I think it was here only, right? Yeah, password list. So sudo John hash. So as you can see that it has been able to crack that particular password from the hash, and in the red color it has actually given the word management 2005. So I hope you remember that in the initial step, we figured out who was the user, SVC admin. For a valid user, we are trying to crack the password. First, we got the information from get NP users. Okay. So similarly, for other users, you can try this out. Okay. But for now, we would get on to the next step and see whether some of the shares are listed, and because we could use a no pass flag with SVC admin, because it does not require any pre-authentication for Kerberos to issue a ticket to it, and then it can figure out the password. Okay. So that vulnerability actually helped us in doing one step further to enumerate more details. So we have actually figured out the password is management 2005. I'll just clear the screen. Okay, I'll leave the screen like this. So in my previous class, while I was giving the demo on one of the boxes at HTB, I told you that if directory services are there, Samba services there on a particular machine, then SMB client is a tool which helps us in figure out whether some shares are enabled or not. Now, with our initial scan with enum for Linux, we found that we require some kind of an authentication here on this IP. And without authentication, we won't be able to figure out like what all shares are there and how they are listed. So, like using the same tool, which is again by default is there in Kali, you want to actually list shares from the target. So with I'll escape the double slash, this UNC path convention by \\. Okay, and I'll give this IP. Okay, and with tag u, I'll give the username. So yes, you were able to figure that out. So it is svc admin. So now it is asking the password. Okay, so in our previous step we said that it is management 2005. I will type it, but you won't be able to see it. And then we can see that it has actually listed wait, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 6 shares. So you remember the image. Oh, wait. So when you are actually connected to a directory, you would see that there are some shares, here. So it is this kind of share that is there and is listed by doing by querying with svc admin. So we are able to have access to this kind of a drive which is shared. Okay, so we have like anything with the dollar. If you see, it requires some kind of a authentication for you to access always. Okay, so as you can see that there is a share name called backup, which should be of prime interest to us, because usually in backup you'll find a lot of sensitive details. Okay, and they have been with the name itself you can figure out like yeah, this is some important thing which somebody wanted to keep for later use, and that's why it's been backed up. Okay, so let's change the options to go in this machine again with svc admin. Okay, wait. And I'll again give the password. So now this, with user svc admin, we are able to spawn up a SMB client, and we are able to connect to the share, and we are there in the backup path. Okay. So with ls option, I can list that what all files are there. And then you can see that in backup, someone has stored backup credentials. So here I might not be able to read it. So I need to get this file by using get command. And then this particular file will be downloaded to the local machine. So I can see in my current path I can have, so there's some kind of a, again some coded text is there in this. Okay, so you can actually use tools like cyberchef and all, and go and figure out online to actually what kind of a code it is, and you need to decode it to further enumerate whether some kind of a credential, what kind of a credential is this. So currently what I'll do is like because I have figured it out already, so I know it is a base 64 encoded value. So I'll just use base 64 minus d to figure this out. Let me just clear the screen. Okay. So as you can see that from the initial scan itself, we knew that there is a user called backup. Okay, backup at the rate of spookysec.local, right? So this is the credential details of that user. So user at the rate of that particular domain and the password. So now we have two users. We have enumerated the details of two users. We have svc admin, svc admin's password, and we have backup user and its password. Okay. So let's go and do further steps like So we have been able to crack the hash with the help of utility called John. We have been able to list the shares. We have been able to get the some kind of a credential file. We have decoded it, and then now using this normal user, backup, we would actually try to bring in the hashes of other users. So in IAM packet, there is a utility called secrets dump. Okay, so you can use that. I'll take this command. Okay, I might have to reduce the size of the screen. Wait. Yeah, I hope it's visible. So you can see that I'll change the IP. Okay, domain controller IP. Then the password that we figured out, right? What was it? Oh, I think it was there in the history itself. Okay, wait. Okay, I need to replace, okay, this is the user. And then I need to specify the password in these single quotes, okay? Let me just, so it's this value, okay? Let's say sudo packet secret dump dot local. This is the domain spooky sec dot local, and I would say backup. Paste that password. Okay, specify the IP at the rate. I'll specify the IP. This is the convention that is there when you log in into a machine, or even if you try to do it with SSH and all that. This is quite ordinary. Whenever you log in with some kind of a remote client, it's always like full name is like domain name and the username, and then second field is always of a password, some kind of, so you can relate with it, right? So it's IP and then domain controller IP, because here we have the same name. I mean, same IP is the domain controller. And we just want it to bring domain controller NTLM passwords for us, NTLM as well as it. So the method that it is using is DRSU API. Okay. So if you want to read more about it, you can go on this link, which is a wiki for Samba. Okay. And so it's like DRSU API. So what it does is like it's directory replication service remote protocol, and it has an API. So it is trying to use this API to list information from this service, okay, from the Active Directory, and it's there with the domain controller. So as you can see, for various users and their hashes are being listed here on the terminal. So the format that it is dumping in is like first is domain, then you have a user ID, then you have a relative ID, then you have LM hash, and then you have NT hash. So we have access to hashes, and then what we when once see it was a normal user, right? Backup. It's not an admin, but it has some kind of a permission on the controller that I showed you in the screenshot. These kind of permissions like replicating directory changes. So whenever these kind of changes happen, that information is accessible to this user also. It's a normal user. Okay. So that's why we have been able to exploit that and bring in this information. So there are so many users and their hashes are there on this machine. Okay. So what is of prime interest to us here is this LM hash and NT hash for a user called administrator. So if we are able to log in into a machine with administrative rights, we can do pretty much anything on that PC or a machine, right? It'll help us in figuring out write files, delete files. All permissions are there with the admin. Okay, so let's do that. So that if we are using hashes to get access to a system, then it is actually called pass the hash attack. I'll just use this command psexec. If you remember in my previous lecture, psexec was actually given as the example of or a utility example which can help you in escalating the privileges or by gaining the access. So it is by passing the hash, by doing pass the hash attack, we are able to escalate the privilege to a administrator user or directly accessing a system with administrative user. So I'll just give the IP of that machine. And as value of the hashes parameter, what I would do is like I'll just go and copy those two, these ones, the LM hash and NT hash. Okay. Okay, maybe it's not there. Let me just. Maybe it's there in the virtual environment, that is. Yeah. So what we are doing is we are gaining access uh, to the target by getting the information for a user and his hash. And we're using utility psexec.py. So as you can see that it is requesting the shares and it has found writable admin directory. So what it does is like it transfers some of the files and starts off a service, spawns up a shell, and then gives you a CMD prompt. So as you can see, we have the CMD prompt on that machine. Okay, how do you know that you are an administrator or what are your rights? So you say, who am I? Okay, then it gives you NT authority system. So if I see CD, and now I pretty much have admin rights on that machine, and I can use Windows command prompt to actually have access. So it has inetpub, it has program files, it has shares, users. So maybe I can go into users and do something, you know. So I'll cd into users, and then I want to know what all users are there. Okay. So this was doing NetBIOS enumeration as well as gaining a foothold on machine by doing additional enumeration with respect to the usernames, valid usernames, using curve root, and then using SMB client and IM packets, other utilities to figure out the hashes, dump them, then crack with the help of additional utilities, and then gaining an access with PSExec. So I'll just exit from here. Okay, so the another utility that we discussed offline was WP Scan. So it's like if there is a website which is developed in WordPress, then you can use WP Scan. I'll just give a, let me just close all other tabs and I'll, yeah. So if you search it on Google, you'll be able to find it. So there is a WP Scan team, an account with the name this, and it has a utility called WP Scan. It's free and it helps you in doing black box audit of your WordPress based websites, and you can use this utility to scan for vulnerabilities, as well as you can do initial level of enumeration, enum scans. Okay, so I have some example based on that, but you might not be able to find out a vulnerable WordPress website uh, out in the open. Okay, so you might have to either simulate it or probably find a website which is there on some bug bounty platforms. So you can actually go to HackerOne. If you I mean, I got a website which was there, you know yeah, I think, so there's a you must have heard there is a uh, you know collaboration platform called Slack, right? They have actually just now, just few days back, they have increased their bug bounties. Okay, so it was there in the news, so I thought maybe I'll just go and read it, and suddenly I found that they have a website which is actually created in WordPress, and you can go and have a look at this. So for various categories or tiers of bugs that you report, you actually get different amounts like $250 and $1,000 and up. And as you, if you report a very critical severity 0 day kind of a bug, be using a skill injection, remote code execution, or by doing some kind of a privilege escalation which affects all teams, you might get a reward up to $5,000. Okay, so I figured out that they have a website, slackhq.com, which is actually, they also have a WordPress bounty program. Okay, and that particular platform, I found this information here that they have a WordPress site. So let me go and try to do some initial WV scans as an example. Okay, so with whatever time is left in this session, we'll do that. So first is that I tried this WP scan with this particular URL. Okay, and if there is a website which does not have WordPress, this tool will actually exit and say that the host is alive, but it does not have WordPress. Okay, so maybe it can be some kind of a default scan that you can enable for all the websites that you scan or which are there in the list of the targets. So as you can see that if there is no redirection, like if you open it in the browser, it might actually land you up on a different page. So if that kind of a redirection is enabled for a particular URL, then you have to use the ignore main redirect option. So I'll use that. just increase the font size. Oh, that's surprising. Just now it did that, right? I don't know why it's so it's I don't know. It's not reporting it for this particular website. Let me try that in the browser, and it's saying that yeah, maybe. So I'll just try to give this blog URL. Okay, it should have actually taken that right by following the redirects. So I'll just change the URL that I got from the browser, and let's see. I really don't know why it's actually reporting that it does not seem to be running WordPress. Let me see if I have some previous scan results. Okay. Yeah. See, once you run this scan, okay, I used this URL slackhq.com, and it has actually fetched some interesting information, right? Some entries on that, what kind of a server it is, okay, and hosted header, then information on from robots.txt. So there is a particular URL called WP admin there. Okay. Then there are some plugins that are enabled, and even the WordPress version is also identified. Like the latest release was on, 12th of, I think 8th of December, maybe. So with by doing some using RSS generator, it was able to do that. Then it was not able to find any configs, but there are additional options that you can try. Okay, such as I'll give you the examples. Yeah, some common vulnerabilities that you can try. Okay, by doing a CB, like on configurations, any vulnerable themes that are installed, or any vulnerable plugins that are there. Then for enumerating the users, okay, let me try it again, or let me just disconnect from that VPN that I'm connected to. Maybe it will probably work again. Okay. So let me try to enumerate some users. Okay. But I really am surprised. Okay, so I think there are some times when you run into this kind of a problem. Okay, so you can try that on your own. Okay, and if I come to find out any additional details, I'll let you know. Okay. Okay. So what you can do is like this is a URL to get you some passwords from leaked databases. That's the general process, that you go to some leaked databases, find out which all passwords have been leaked, and then try to target a website and do an attack by giving the password options and some kind of usernames. In my previous scan, I found that there are some users like Hyrolma, and yeah, Leverett and Agarcia. These three usernames were there, and with maximum threads 50, I was able to initiate this scan using WP scan. So sometimes what happens is that you might face the problem that I just said, that maybe it has detected that I'm trying to send some requests to this, and probably it is trying to block it. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's some other reason also. So but there are some aggressive mode detection with the help of WP scan you can do. Okay, such as you know the option called plugin detection, and then mode can be aggressive. And all of this information is also available in the help. So if you want to enumerate vulnerable plugins, you can do that. All plugins, then you can pass AP. And if you want to scan popular plugins, then you can. On this particular site, on slackhq.com, all of these did not report any kind of results. Okay, because there was no config backup, there was no plugin which is being used, there is no vulnerable theme that is being used. Okay, because it's already the latest version of WordPress that it has. So if you get access to a WordPress website which is you know of a version that is a little older, you might be able to figure out some additional vulnerabilities. Then WP scan also has you can register on it, seek an API, then you can ask the tool to verbosely give you additional information on the vulnerabilities and their even the version numbers, along with the version numbers of the plugins. So WP scan team website is there. I think on that you can find out. Yeah, this is WP scan API. Yeah, wpscan.com. So it's like 50 API requests a day and monthly email digest. You can register, and you can like have there are some steps listed for making the request by using the API token, and then some examples are also given. Then you can have a look at this. So for today, we took example of a Windows machine on which NetBIOS is enabled. We took steps to enumerate valid usernames on that. Also, what was the NetBIOS name and all that. And we were able to figure out the users, and we were able to list down the shares. Then we had a example image of domain and Active Directory map, how it is laid out, how the organizational unit and other entities are laid out in it. Then we were able to escalate the privileges. We were able to dump various password hashes, and then we were using that, we were able to escalate the privilege of a normal user to a administrator. And then we took an example of a WCP scan to do advanced enumeration on a WordPress website. So that is all for today. If you have some questions, then we can take those up in chat.